Okay, good day, dear Lars. Can we start?
Yep.
Okay. I speak Russian. Добрый день, уважаемые участники нашего круглого стола. Вначале я хочу...
Dear participants, I would like to say that moderators said that we will have translation and you can choose English or Russian language.
You can change language in Zoom program. Наверное, все переключились. Я начну с письма с Министерства науки и высшего образования.
I hope everyone chose the language, and I will start with the letter. Dear participants, colleagues, on behalf of Ministry of Science and Higher Education of Russian Federation, I welcome you on annual Northern Sustainable Development Forum. And this year, the forum is dedicated to climate agenda and question issues of perennial frozen soils. I'm sure that the forum will be an effective platform for constructive discussion on actual issues in research of environmental changes and climate and environment. For this, we have to have pragmatic international discussion in Arctic countries as well as non-Arctic countries. Russia will continue to work on strengthening the international participation joint activities can help in solving global issues in Arctic, and working together we can have better.
We wish you to have a productive discussion. The Director of the Department of International Relations. As one of the organizers, I'm giving you the word, and on behalf of the Northeastern Federal University, I welcome all the participants of the session. And of course, we were waiting for the forum to start, and our honorable professors, the head of the UArctic is an annual participant of the conference, and I would like to give the word to him. And at the beginning, I would like to moderate the international participants, and then I will lead the session. The word goes to you, Lars.
Thank you, Director. It's a great honor to share this session together with you. It is very sad that I can still not be in person in Yakutsk. I really look forward to the day when that can happen, and I hope that is now soon, as the world is luckily improving when it comes to opportunities to move around. So let's hope that will be in the spring. The topic of this session is about sustainable development and the role of higher education. The University of the Arctic is a common umbrella for all the northern universities of the world. And in our new strategic plan, we have a set of impacts we want the collaboration to lead to, which is directly coupled to the sustainable development goals. The first impact is to bring northern voices and knowledge to the global stage increase understanding and respect towards the region. So an outreach to the world and tell the rest of the world why Arctic matters to the rest of the world is a very important role for the universities. And that leads in a way to the Sustainable Development Goal 17 about together for the goals, really. Then we have increased human competence and capacity in the North, leading to the more economic part of the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is, of course, the daily business of the universities, but it's also something we likely can do better together and use UArctic as a tool for this cooperation. Then improve lives and communities for all Northerners is a very important part of the role of the universities. That means we need to build activities and education that are actually relevant, that increase the possibility to live in the small communities as well as the northern cities, and that they become vibrant places for life. And finally, and not at least, create a healthy environment that serves the North as well as the world over generations. This is about the sustainability in the environment side. So we need sustainability for the peoples, the communities. We need sustainability for the environment. And to reach that, we need increased knowledge in also better, maybe economic development in the Arctic that's organized in a way that fits the needs of the North. With those words, I would like to introduce the first speaker, Dan Hirschberg, Vice President Academic of UArctic. The floor is yours, and you are late night, I think, in Alaska. So over to you, Diane.
Thank you so much. Dobry den, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I am going to share my screen and hopefully share the correct screen. Let's see if this does it correctly. Oops, and are you seeing a cover for a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Wonderful. I have a tendency when it's late at night to share the wrong screen. So I'm going to pick right up where Lars started, which is talking about the role of UArctic specifically in working on creating these circumpolar collaborations that can build knowledge and capacity that are needed so that our northern communities can achieve their own self-determined sustainable development goals across the Arctic. And I feel very honored and privileged to be able to share this. I'm speaking, but of course, there are many people who have created this vision, and I am just hopefully honoring them in representing it here today. And so a little bit about the University of the Arctic. Of course, I think many of the people that are joining us today do know what the University of the Arctic is, but I think it's always worth revisiting a little bit about it, that we are a network of universities and colleges and institutes that are concerned with education and research in and about the North. And the University of the Arctic has always been part of this conversation on sustainable development, really highlighting that there's been a commitment to it throughout. So as you can see, even in our description of who we are, we talk about through cooperation in education, research, and outreach, we enhance human capacity in the North, promote viable communities and sustainable economies, and forge global partnerships. And of course, UArctic is a product of the Arctic Council, and we are committed to upholding its principles of sustainable development, and again, as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So this is a commitment that threads through everything that we do as an organization. And briefly, there's over 200 member organizations in UArctic, and this is primarily higher education institutions and research institutes, but there are other organizations like the Anchorage Museum in our backyard here And we have members who are in the Arctic and also members who are from non-Arctic nations who see the value of partnering with us in this. And just this year, we have updated our vision and our mission and our strategic plan. And sustainability, again, continues to be at the core of what we're doing. So the vision for UArctic is a strong, engaged, informed, and dynamic North, creating better lives and environments for all Northerners. And the mission is that UArctic develops the knowledge to address local and global challenges of relevance to Arctic peoples and societies by providing unique educational, research, and innovation opportunities through collaboration within a powerful network of member institutions. And it's that collaboration that is so at the core and what makes us very powerful. All of our institutions individually are high quality and effective and productive, but when we come together, we really can step up to a different level to address the critical challenges facing us in the North. And again, UArctic has been digging deeply into how we do this work. So the first thing is recognizing the centrality of education as a tool for building a sustainable future. One of my criticisms many have heard of the UN SDGs when they talk about education is they tend to very narrowly define education as education about sustainable development or education about science and technology, but not so much recognizing the role that education plays in actually building the skills and the human capital to be able to do what we need to in order to be sustainable. And UArctic is really at the forefront. And this is from the 2018 UArctic Congress stating, we see education as the essential element in building a sustainable future for Northerners, strengthening their ability to determine their own futures and develop new knowledge that benefits both the North and the world. And this commitment continues. And this year, when we had our UArctic Congress again, the declaration stated, we see that cooperation in education and research can contribute significantly to all of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly because UArctic embodies the objective of the final goal. And that's, as Lars was saying, partnership for the goals. So how do we do this? Well, hopefully many of you are part of our thematic networks and institutes, and you'll hear from some in a bit, but the thematic networks and institutes are groups of UArctic members working together on common topics for research or for creating learning experiences for students, faculty, and communities. And there's an enormous number and range of these thematic networks, but the key is that they involve multiple institutions. So the thematic networks I'm active in include universities in Russia and Finland and Norway and Canada, and in many cases, multiple institutions in those places. And our offerings are ranging from producing joint publications to courses that can be taken online or in person, to working together to create documents that can advocate and explain the positions that come out of the research that we're doing. So it's really, it's a very robust way of doing business, and it, again, is a regional to circumpolar to even beyond international set of collaborators that do this work together. And so what we do as UArctic with our thematic networks and with also our exchanges and other activities is we encourage our members to develop collaborative research and education programs that are guided by the needs of the communities. And that's with the goal of expanding, again, the capacity of Arctic residents so that they can respond to the challenges of the social, economic, cultural, environmental, and climate change challenges that we are facing. And then we work to coordinate both regionally and then across the circumpolar north so that we can build opportunities for students and researchers to collaborate in these ways. We also participate actively in the international policy conversation. So we are observers in the Arctic Council and at the Sustainable Development Working Group meetings. And we review, we critique, and we endorse projects that support sustainable development goals. And finally, we collaborate not only in encouraging across university and institution collaborations, but also across Arctic networks. So we work closely with the International Arctic Social Sciences Association, the International Arctic Science Committee, and then regional Arctic research entities. So the European Union Arctic Research Organizations, ARCIS in the US, ACUNS in Canada, to build capacity across institutions and disciplines and to foster new interdisciplinary and international projects. And so I hope that you'll, if you're not involved already with University of the Arctic, you'll take some time to visit our website and perhaps reach out to me or to Lars or some of the individual universities that are represented on this panel today, because this work is important. We're very excited to bring new people into our networks and to keep building our sustainability in the North. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Very good to get an overview of what we're up to. Now, I would like to give the floor to the next speaker, Eddie Nicol, Director of School of the Study of Canada, Director of Foster Center for Canadian Studies and Indigenous Studies, Professor of Geography, School of the Environment Program Coordinator, Circumpolar Studies at Trent University, Peterborough, Ontario. And Heather, you were actually also the host of the last in-person rectors meeting of UArctic. Nobody had planned it to be like that, but that was in August 2019, a very nice gathering of university leaders. I hope that we in the future can have a new in-person rectors meeting in UArctic. So, but thank you for doing also that. Heather, the floor is yours. You are muted, Heather, and I also know it's middle of the night for you.
Actually, no, it's on the morning side now. Thank you. Thanks very much, Lars. I appreciate those comments. And thank you all for having me here today to talk a little bit about we'll really focus more on, give you an example of how what Trent is doing and how we kind of understand this project, and pick up maybe on some comments that Diane made about how we can network education and circumpolar studies. And I just want to say that truthfully, I wasn't supposed to be here. It was supposed to be Leo Gork, who is our president. So I'm grateful to Leo for letting me speak in his place today. So, I think Diane raised that wonderful broad landscape in terms of there's several ways in which we can engage with sustainable development goals, both through the thematic networks and research, through, education. And also, maybe what I wanted to talk a little bit more about is really the individual institutional role. And I would like to, just talk a little bit about what Trent's doing in the sense of how they've worked with sustainable development goals, and then how we have tried to create an understanding of those sustainable development goals for an Arctic-specific context, and then perhaps talk about where circumpolar studies, education, and networks fit in all of this. So, Trent's mission, in fact, I was quickly looking up as you were mentioning the UArctic mission, because I thought, that's something also that our mission is to, promote vibrant, engaged, and sustainable communities. And the School of the Environment, where I work, is really it's becoming it's not the greatest environmental school in the world or anything like that, but it's certainly becoming, a leader and very active in promoting sustainable development goals. It's one of the things, I'm going to explain a little bit how they do that, but one of the things that's quite unique in a sense is how we work with our School of Indigenous Studies at Trent. And we've put some unique spins on the kind of sustainable development goals that we feel that are something that we can manage institutionally or that we can promote particularly well institutionally. So, in thinking about a unique Indigenous perspective and centering on Indigenous leadership and diverse perspectives to advance sustainable development goals, I think we've really settled on 5, and one is in a sense is really not a sustainable development goal, but it's been slipped in. So the sustainable development goals at Trent really focuses on our number 1, no poverty; number 4, quality education; number 6, clean water and sanitation; number 13, climate action. And then because of our relationship and the fact that we probably have one of the first Canadian, if not North American, and one of the largest schools of Indigenous studies, we also want to prioritize Indigenous leadership in promoting and achieving sustainable development goals. So institutionally, there are many things we do. Resources, I think we've got something like 22 different resources and training programs on sustainable development goals, broadly defined in terms of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We've got training, quite interesting training initiatives, anything from, the UNESCO Education for Sustainable Development Learning Goals, objective reports. We've got where Canada stands in terms of sustainable development achievement. All these are all links to different resources, and I won't read all 22. I think, getting started with sustainable development goals in universities by the US DSN resources is probably the place where we would direct people to start at Trent University and then work their way through the suite of resources so they can better understand what sustainable development goals are. We've also got memberships. We've got about 24. So what Diane was speaking to, this networked partnerships, we've got a number of partnerships, about 24 partnerships that we participate in or lead to promote UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then we've also got other kinds of resources. But what I wanted to say about all of that is that that's great for consciousness raising and awareness and training and embedding the notion of sustainable development within the faculty and the students, the general ethos of sustainable development, understanding of sustainable development goals, sharing it with community partners and links. That's great. But on the other hand, there is a need, and perhaps more so in institutions like Trent and the member institutions outside of the north of 60, outside of the Arctic and subarctic region, which we would consider northern institutions, those that are located more in the southern areas of Arctic states or perhaps non-Arctic states. There's a need to understand how sustainable development goals relates to the Arctic and try to understand how those goals can be envisioned and implemented and the kind of educational projects that need to be initiated. So one of the things that we've done at Trent, and I'm really quite excited about this, we actually partnered with for a while with PRPI, and I think Doug Kazi was engaged in this, a number of people from Alaska and University of Saskatchewan, a number of institutions. We actually engaged in a series of talks and lectures which took place in different areas of the world, Finland, the UK, United States, Canada, where we incorporated Indigenous leadership and academics and talked about what sustainable development goals meant for the Arctic. What were those goals, and how could you translate those broader interests from the UN Sustainable Development Goals? How could you translate those, and what did people prioritize, and what kinds of initiatives and ways of thinking would that lead to? So we had, one of the things that culminated in at least one aspect was a broad forum on the Arctic and the UN Sustainable Development Goals at Trent in 2017. But all of that is to say, these are all conscious raising initiatives, and certainly very useful exercises. But changing the narrative really from UN Sustainable Development Goals at the global level to thinking about the more regionally specific, and then situating institutions and audiences within that. But what else can institutions do to foster a larger audience? I think that what Diane mentioned, the educational networks, and I think this is where at Trent we're really engaged in promoting circumpolar education online, of course, and promoting it not just as a way. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to promote circumpolar education. To develop cohorts and mobility, and regional understandings and common language and pedagogy and dialogue and all of that. But we're really, really interested in promoting circumpolar education also to promote or to foster and inculcate students with that notion of sustainability. And you'll find in the courses that we manage through Trent, which involve a partnership with 7 other North American institutions and a number of different institutions from Russia and Northern Europe. Within that curriculum, we've worked very hard to actually embed the notion of not just sustainability and resilience and education about the land and relationships to the land, but also to specifically place within this curriculum discussions of the UN sustainability goals and their relationship to the Arctic. And then to follow through on that, to start talking about co-management, to start talking about resilience, to start talking about traditional knowledge and Indigenous knowledge, and to incorporate that into that curriculum. So that's an institutional effort, but it's not done without fund. We've had significant funding from Universities Canada for that. We work with the University of Alaska, University of Washington, Yukon University, Lakehead University. I think that's and Trent to develop the courses, but then we have a number of other partners who also, work with us, and we deliver courses too. So I think that's fundamental. I think that picking up on that network piece, but remembering that, and I just want to close on this, that remembering that our academic work, in support of the UN Sustainable Development Goals in the UArctic is also about curriculum, and it's also about teaching undergraduates. It's raising that cohort of students that are literate when they, and about what sustainable development goals are, and what the different issues are, and whether you want to pick the Trent Sustainable Development Goals that poverty, quality education, clean water, sanitation, and climate action. There's so much more that you can choose, and of course we talk about food security. We have Chris Fergal, who does a lot of work on food security, and we have people that do water quality. We have all kinds of different projects going on. But in terms of curriculum, I think it's raising this cohort of undergraduates that perhaps the thematic networks don't. They deal with the graduate students and the researchers. So I think this is where we can make a great contribution. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Heather. I would like to add a little side observation here, that this meeting is hosted by the Northeastern Federal University, which has been the most active university in UArctic in producing students through using the curriculum called the Circumpolar Studies program. Mm-hmm. And you, Heather, have picked it up and is now the lead in Canada and work for this curriculum. So you actually share a curriculum now across the Arctic, which maybe today the content is a bit different both places, but still the same basis for educating undergraduate students. And I think that's a great value of you both contributed to.
Yeah, and if I don't mean to interrupt you, but we had a wonderful conversation this morning with a group, and Echo's among them, and to talk about how now to cross our courses and start to build a shared curriculum.
Thank you, Heather. Now over to maybe the more practical side of sustainability. It is not only about making students having a common understanding about the Arctic and what is sustainability. So over to Iceland, and I think it's very early morning in Reykjavik. Magnus de Witt is a PhD student at Reykjavik University, which is also a UArctic member, of course, and talking about research on the use of renewable energy sources in the Arctic. So Magnus, the floor is yours.
Dobro den. Welcome, dear colleagues. Luckily, it's not so early for me because due to COVID, I'm based in Germany now, and I will share my screen. I hope you can see now a PowerPoint presentation. Can you see it? Okay.
Yes.
So first, I would like to introduce my university very briefly. So Reykjavik University, it's a very new founded university. It was founded in 1998, and we have approximately 3,500 students and a little bit above 300 people in the academic staff. And our university is divided into two schools, the School of Technology and of Social Science. And in the School of Technology, we have two engineering departments, one for applied science, one for normal engineering, and one department for computer science. And in the School for Technology, we can find the Sustainability Institute and Forum, and it's called ZIF, and it's also related to Icelandic god, and it was founded in 2017. And the aim is to do research and development for low carbon technologies and support such projects, and to provide evidence-based results for policymakers to introduce new low carbon technologies, and to preserve the very unique Icelandic nature. And one of the very interesting project which is going on at this institute is the transition towards a 100% electrical heavy-duty vehicle fleet in Iceland. That's one of the main ongoing projects. And next to it, another very interesting school we have, it's the Iceland School of Energy. And as the previous speakers have mentioned, that knowledge sharing, it's one of the key things to get already achieved knowledge around, to spread it around. And Iceland is in the unique position to have a very, relatively long history in sustainable energy use, especially in hydropower and geothermal power. And the Iceland School of Energy offers different master programs where they have a strong focus on geothermal energy. And these programs in sustainable energy engineering, power engineering, and electrical power management are very interdisciplinary and very international. So we have students from around the world and trying to share the knowledge. And we also have some projects of master students which are related to Arctic issues. For example, here on the right-hand side, we can see from one of our students, Evelyn Guanva, a project which results in a publication, and this was focused on alternative heating systems for northern remote communities, and it was in cooperation with INRS from Canada, and it was focused on a community in Nunavik, Canada. So now I would like to take a little bit more of the practical side and talk a little bit about my research, which is focused on the energy transition in remote Arctic communities which have no access to an electrical grid, a regional or over-regional electricity grid. And here we can see that it reflects to different sustainable development goals. For example, no poverty, affordable and clean energy. And of course, it's also a little bit related to industry, innovation and infrastructure. So in the Arctic, we can see that most communities, approximately 80% of the Western Arctic communities, are based on diesel. And we can see a few communities which have a hydropower, approximately 6%. And for 14%, we can see a hybrid system. A hybrid system means a system where we have a diesel base, But in addition to diesel, to lower the consumption, we have some renewables like, for example, wind or solar power. And we see this high percentage of diesel use in the Arctic because diesel has proven very suitable for Arctic conditions. We have a high energy density in diesel, so we need a relatively small storage. And the problem is, if there is anything with a generator, we have a short black start time, and this is very useful if you have a remote electricity grid. So you're very independent. But the big issue with diesel, that's the import of diesel, because in remote communities we often have no road network, so we have problems to import the diesel. And there we have different means of transportation. For example, we can ship it in during the ice-free period if the community is located at the shoreline or on a navigatable river. Or if the river is not navigatable, we can truck it in during the winter time if the ice is stable enough. But the problem is, due to climate warming, the period of the ice road opening gets shorter and shorter. And as we can see in the picture, a third option to transport the fuel is to deliver the fuel by airplane or helicopter. But of course, this is a very expensive and complicated transportation method if you need a significant amount of fuel. But all means of transportation are relatively expensive and risky. So sometimes it happens that fuel spills occur, and these fuel spills are traced back in the food chain for a long time. And especially due to the subsistence lifestyle, it's a big issue if you have the toxin in the food chain. Another problem related to the diesel use are the black carbon emissions, CO2 and other greenhouse gas emissions. And we can see very high electricity prices due to the high diesel price. And that's why a transition is needed to achieve a more affordable electricity. And in one of my most recent publications, we have done a simulation or comparison of different scenarios for different energy options. So here we can see the top gray line. It's the base case for a community Kotzebue in Alaska, where we see how the accumulated cost over time are if we have a 100% diesel case. And in Kotzebue, Alaska, they have already installed a significant amount of wind turbines. So we can see in this dotted greenish line the current situation, how it is, and that we have a significant cost saving over time. And of course, we can see that all renewable options lead to some cost saving over a long time horizon of 30 years. And we have selected 30 years because that's the lifetime of the technology. For some technologies, you can see that after 15 years that there's a increase, and that's due to replacement of some battery storage. Depending on which kind of a mix we have, we need some additional battery storage to provide a good quality of electricity. So for this transition processes, science is a very fundamental key, and not just the science, we also need the involvement of local communities, because in these communities, technology has to be used. And when I was visiting some of the communities, I saw that handling technology is sometimes a problem because we have not enough skilled workforce in these remote communities. So it's always important to train the local people and take them with you on the transition process, so that the transition is done with them, that they know what will be done and how to operate it. And of course, further technology development is needed to adapt technologies for these very harsh Arctic conditions. And it's not just about the education for how to operate the system, also how to use energy in the most efficient way. And therefore, it's very important to develop a good strategy or concept for the transition process. And a transition towards renewable energy can bears some options for economical growth in some regions. So we can see that energy, that's a backbone of modern society, and that's maybe something which can foster these remote communities. That was my little introduction of my current work. And thanks a lot for your attention. And if you have any question, feel free to ask or write me later an email.
Thank you, Magnus. This was very relevant and obviously a topic for collaboration across the North. It is a shared challenge being in Yakutsk or other parts of Russian North, as well as in the North American North, with a remote professor of ecology in the Arctic, been around with many of us for quite a bit of time. So, Doug, the floor is yours.
Добрий день. Добро пожаловать в Аляске. Я Дуглас Кози, биолог-эколог и Университета Alaska, and I am so pleased that I can speak to you today. What I want to talk about is the experience that we have at the University of Alaska in partnering, having partners with other institutions in the University of Alaska, and a collaboration with Harvard. So I will now show a very quick presentation. Just one moment. So what I will talk about today quickly is an example of university collaborations that create new knowledge and capacity for the new Arctic. And I will talk about a very small collaboration between my institution, Harvard, and tell you about the partnership that we have with the other institutions in the University of the Arctic. And this has, as you will see, has proved to be extremely valuable and enlightening for our students. Well, we are all aware of climate change in the Arctic, and it is reshaping certainly the Alaska landscape and peoples and the circumpolar Arctic. And we can talk about three main topics in this: environmental security, the physical changes in the circumpolar Arctic, and what are the interactions among environment and sovereignty. And this word here means how people govern and operate themselves, and community resilience. Well, here are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for the UN, with 169 targets, 3,087 events, 1,304 publications, 5,476 actions, and it goes on. I have this slide here to show that there are many sustainable development goals. And we all know we all cannot work on all of them at the same time. But how can we deal with some of these? You have heard before me the work that Magnus has done, and some work that both Heather and Diane Hirschberg have done. The key that I wanted to talk about is that any of these are going to be important, but what can we do as a university with students and faculty? Well, just a minute. I hope this is going to play. This is a video made by my students, Inuit students in Alaska, from Kotzebue and Wainwright. Went to Konik, Greenland, and made this video about the local people talking about change. this video could be taken anywhere in the Arctic of indigenous people, and I wanted to show it to you. Now, it's spoken Inuit and an English translation. So again, I hope
sea ice is before 2002 about 2 meters thick. Right now it's 45 centimeters thin. So climate changing is going fast.
The amounts of ice is decreasing a lot. Since the 1990s, there has been less. There are less areas where we can travel on the ice, and we cannot travel as far as before. 60 or 70% of the ice is now melting. It used to be as thick as 2 meters, but for about 5 years now, it is only 1 meter thick. To be only a hunter is now becoming limited. Since the ice is disappearing, I think our way of living now is moving to be more of a fisherman. The seal is so important to the community up here, also including my family. The skin is used for rope and for gloves and other traditional clothing. The meat of the seal is also important for the dogs and for the people up here, including my family. Economically, the seal skins also support us financially. We eat it and sell the skin for money.
I never thought I would be a hunter. I wasn't raised that way. And now I am a hunter. My wife, she's a worker. And the way we pay the bills for electricity, for the oil, for the heat for our house, I try to be supportive to the family as much as possible, to try to survive up here, economically balancing with my wife through the hunting and fishing. Mostly I rely on hunting as opposed to fishing, but after I heard about all the jellyfish being sold last winter, I thought maybe I would do more fishing. I thought maybe in the next year I would balance it by hunting and fishing at the same time. Now I am constantly eating from the animals I've caught from nature. That's how I survive, and that's how I want to stay in the future.
To be a hunter up here is getting hard. Pressure from the outside world is having an effect on the government. They are making more rules on hunting, so it makes it more difficult to be a hunter.
I hope you were able to understand much of that. Well, I wanted to show you that video. Again, what you heard is something that I'm sure is being heard throughout the circumpolar Arctic. At my institution at the University of Alaska Anchorage, we have a program which is targeted for indigenous students, and this is the Alaska Native Science and Engineering Program. And through this program, we have our students interacting with indigenous students, their peers, throughout the Arctic and in partnership with the University of the Arctic. So I will not go through all of the activities that we have at the University of Alaska Anchorage that engage the University of the Arctic, but we use this partnership to enable our students and our faculty to have new experiences, find new research partners, and like you just saw, even do creative projects, getting information from local people. Now, so the University of Alaska Anchorage, through the University of the Arctic, we are able to partner with all of the member institutions. We have students coming from these institutions to the University of Alaska and working with our own students. Now, I have also put the Arctic Initiative at Harvard on this, which I am a part of. Harvard is not a member of the University of the Arctic. Lars, I'm working on it. Okay? But the Arctic Initiative is set up to undertake research. And I'm going to go to the next slide and explain a little bit more about why this is an example for us to consider. The Arctic Initiative at Harvard has four main themes, as you can see: permafrost and global climate impacts, marine conservation and ocean pollution, Arctic governance, cooperation and diplomacy, resilience, climate adaptation, Arctic health, and infrastructure. Well, these are very broad. I have those arrows there to show you that these four areas from Harvard are areas that intersect with what institutions, my institution, the University of Alaska Anchorage, the member institutions of the University of the Arctic, your institution. These are possibilities for new interactions. And when we find partners like Harvard, like Cambridge University, and other very large established institutions, our students benefit. The ability for us to undertake important research is benefited. And I will tell you that our participation, that is students and faculty at your institution and students and faculty in my institutions, are also providing new insights and collaborations with non-member institutions that may not have very much of an experience in the Arctic. So I can talk more about this, but I will tell you that and this is just one example, but the members of the Arctic Initiative are just as pleased to have this interaction at our level as we are with them. And then I'm going to end on this slide here. This is about a course that I am teaching through not only my institution, but as well the University of the Arctic. And we do this is somewhat of an unusual class in that it is done, not only is it recorded, but also real time. Obviously, it is through distance. And when we first started this, that was rather unusual. Now, of course, we all do it. Last year, through the University of the Arctic, not only did we have 23 students in Alaska, and I must tell you, because of the scope and scale of Alaska is very similar to Siberia in that communities are distant, far apart, not connected by road or any other system. So students are isolated from each other. Not only 23 students in Alaska, 3 from Finland, 1 from Denmark, 1 from Greenland, 2 from Canada participated, and the students interacted with each other to their great advantage. We are talking, and Heather Nickel can talk more about this, but the Circumpolar Studies program is also now contained within the Lara Institute, and maybe Lars can talk more about that. But through that, we have a very strong partner with the Arctic State the Arctic State Agrotechnological University in Yakutsk with Irina Dranayeva. And we are working on crafting some courses that we would offer jointly in a similar way that we're doing here. All right, I will stop here. What I wanted to show you was opportunities, examples. My institution views its membership in the UArctic, University of the Arctic, as being very valuable and important. And even more important, our connections with institutions like yours and others in Russia and throughout the circumpolar Arctic as being key to the education and research that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, for showing so concretely that collaboration is useful and essential to build a resilient Arctic. I would now like to give the floor back to Rector Nikolaev. Thank you for letting all the foreigners speak so far, but we will now listen and learn with big interest. Floor is yours.
Спасибо большое. Попутешествовать по всему миру, начиная с Аляски, Исландии, Скандинавии, мы возвращаемся в Россию, и я хотел бы начать именно с той области, которая находится ближе. Ларс.
Thank you very much. I would like to start, give the word to Irina Shadrina, Rector of Murmansk Arctic State University. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Can everyone hear me? I am glad to welcome you from the most northern university in Russia, Murmansk Arctic State University. Murmansk region is firstly is in the Arctic zone of Russian Federation. It's far north and it's strategically important. And it borders with Finland, Norway, and other countries. And our university is the biggest educational center of the region, established in 1909, and it has a big campus. You can see it on the screen. The main establishment is in Murmansk, and we also have two branches, one in Kirov. They are reorganizing the educational activities, and we have second branch in Apatite, and they conduct higher education in engineering there. Of course, our university's role is that our university has been transforming into classical university, and you can see the tasks that are for our university on the screen. We support and promote young talents from all of Russian regions and fulfill the university's third mission. We conduct strategic and innovative projects, developing the infrastructure of the region and improve social life of our citizens and people who live in our region. Here you can see the number of educational programs of our university. And this is our structure. Our university is the only university in the region that teaches in mathematics and natural sciences, engineering and technical sciences, health, promotion and medicine, and others. We develop programs in pedagogical field, physical culture, physical education, and so on. We have more than 3,000 students, and we are the largest university in Murmansk region. The most important thing is that our work can be seen by our stakeholders, and we have a lot of collaborations in research and other activities. On the screen, you can see our key stakeholders. We will talk about them later. Our Vice Director for Science and Research will tell more about our work. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. One of the most important things for our university is research for better life in Russia. So we have 4 different fields of top priority: climate and space, weather, nature and environment, resources, and society and infrastructure. On the screen you can see the project of our university in research. Our region has a unique natural ecosystem, so for preserving it, we conduct research. Murmansk and Arctic zone of the Russian Federation. There is a lot of developing of natural resources in our region, and we develop it, try to develop it always. We try to develop high-tech solutions for natural resources mining and processing optimization, society and infrastructure. Murmansk region is one of the largest regions in Arctic zone. So our university tries to conduct research for improving life, quality of life of our citizens. You can see all the fields of our research, and we are ready to collaborate on these fields of research. And also our university has a project, Murmansk Arctic State University, Integrator of High-Tech Competences. And we are open to collaborations on this project. We have 4 groups, main group of work within this project. We welcome everyone to collaborate in this field, in this project. Our university, one of the roles of our university is developing collaborations with different organizations. We also collaborate with universities from UArctic, mainly in research fields that I mentioned earlier. And of course, our university being in Arctic, being in the Arctic, it wants to have collaborations with other regions of Russia. I would like to give the word to my colleague. Good afternoon, colleague. I understand that we have a short time frame, but I would like to tell you about our support of promoting young talent.
So the realization of these missions, as we said before, is connected with the society and with its participation in the...
Our university is becoming stronger because of supporting and promoting young talent. And our main challenge is lack of young people, like in, I think, a lot of other Arctic spaces.
Когда мы говорим о том, как же мы выстраиваем это взаимодействие, мои коллеги уже подчеркнули, мы действуем в двух таких крупных направлениях. Это взаимодействие
с big fields of work in here, collaborating with stakeholders. And also we work in consortiums.
Как раз темы сегодняшней нашей. Мы последние несколько лет занимаемся активно темой арктической урбанистики, и здесь мы работаем в консорциуме, о котором мои коллеги сказали, будущей арктической архитектуры и динамики климата, и мы приглашаем наших коллег, возможно, присоединиться к этому направлению. Я знаю, что Северный федеральный...
You can see our project, and we welcome everyone to collaborate on this project too. Our projects are in construction in Arctic, and forming thematic educational programs, and we also work with our students. You can see on the screen. We have a lot of events for students, not only from Murmansk, but also other regions of Russia. One of our events is called Urban Studies.
Проектируют прямо проекты благоустройства городской среды. Самое интересное...
Our students work on improving the infrastructure of our city. All the projects seen on the screen, they have been taken from our region's government. So we collaborate with our government on this project for improving life in the north, because initially our region was built for developing natural resources and stuff like that, and now we want to make infrastructure for them so they can have better life conditions here. And the word goes to moderators. This is a very interesting speech, and the word goes to our next university, Sergei Sorokin.
Уважаемые друзья, добрый день.
Sergei Sorokin,
Приветствовать вас от имени ректора
Vice Rector of Northern Arctic Federal University. I would like to
сегодня обсуждается, она является очень актуальной.
Welcome you on behalf of our university and personally from our rector, Elena Kudryashova. The topic that is being discussed today is very important because modern universities are able to make a significant contribution to achieving most of the sustainable development goals. Currently, universities have gone beyond their two fundamental missions, educational and scientific, and are actively developing the so-called third mission, which is related to their activities in the public interest. In my opinion, almost all these SDGs are directly combined with the key activities of universities to implement the third mission. It should be noted that the activities of universities in achieving sustainable development goals are reflected in a number of international rankings, in particular in the Times Higher Education rankings. Since 2019, the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings has been published, which is dedicated to the role of universities in the implementation of the 17 UN SDGs. It includes more than 450 universities from 76 countries. On the screen, you can see one of the indicators. For example, good health and well-being. It measures university research on key diseases and their support of medical professions, as well as the health of students and staff. Also, quality education. It measures university contribution to early and lifelong learning. Also, gender equality measures universities' gender studies, their gender equality policies, and their commitment to recruiting and promoting women. If we look at the results of the rankings in 2021, we will see that the universities of the Arctic state were ranked very highly in almost all 17 Sustainable Development Goals. For example, we can see Queen's University from Canada being 5th in the overall ranking, and also other countries are represented here. A total of 29 universities from Canada were ranked in the year, and many of them are within the top 50. Also, there are 4 universities from Denmark, one of which, the University of Aalborg, is 6th in the overall ranking. The ranking includes 3 universities from Sweden, 2 of which are in the top 50, and 1 university from Norway, and 8 universities from Finland. Also, there are 2 universities from Iceland, and I made a selection of the universities from Russia and the US located in the Arctic zone. Among them are the Northeastern Federal University. And apparently it is not for nothing that this university is organizing today's forum. And also there is 1 university from the USA.
Университеты Севера и Арктики занимают очень высокие позиции в этом рейтинге.
So we can say that universities from Arctic are ranked very highly in this ranking. That means that for most universities in Arctic, it is very important. This work is very important. Many universities directly elaborate these areas of work in their program documents, including in their development strategies. In my speech, I would like to say a few words about the work carried out by our university, the Northern Arctic Federal University, in terms of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals.
Университеты различных стран арктических занимают очень высокие позиции, вот действительно в пределах 10-20 первых мест. И вот немножко, да, поскольку время ограничено,
Here you can see universities of the North and the Arctic that they are ranked very highly in all SDGs, for most of them within top 10 and 20. So one of the examples of our university's work is Arctic Floating University.
Морских экосистем. Этот проект реализуется с 2012 года. Это инновационно-научно-образовательный.
This project contributes to the realization of life before water goal. The university has been implementing it since 2012. This is an innovative, comprehensive scientific and educational expedition during which research is conducted in hydrometeorology, hydrology, biology, geology, and so on. In total, 13 expeditions were conducted with more than 600 participants, including about 300 students from different universities of foreign countries: Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, Spain, and so on. Another example is the project of student Arctic cleaning teams. This project was realized 2 years in 2014 and 2017. It was realized on Alexandra Island and Franz Josef Land archipelago. And it shows how students of the universities can participate in such projects. And next example. A wooden schooner has been under construction in one of the university's premises for 2 years. The university has a traditional wooden shipbuilding development project.
которые проживали на территории нашей области. И в ее строительстве принимают участие сами студенты, то есть они и проектируют, и непосредственно...
So in this project there are students who participate in it, and this construction site itself is an art object where city cultural events take place, art exhibitions, film screenings, and meetings with interesting people. These events are part of our work to implement the third mission of the university. In conclusion, I would like to indicate the following. Most Arctic universities are actively involved in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is necessary to coordinate actions, including the exchange of best practices between Arctic universities. Perhaps it makes sense to create a platform dedicated to the role of universities in the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals on the basis of any of the existing structures, or create a new one. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Россия действительно занимает большие территории. Будем двигаться восточнее. И я бы хотел передать слово первому проректору Томского государственного университета Виктору Валентиновичу Демину. Пожалуйста.
Okay, the word goes to Victor Diomin. Dear colleagues, I hope you can hear me. Yes, the rector approves that we can hear you. I need to set up a presentation because thank you so much. I have the presentation. Dear colleagues, hello again. My presentation is only in the Russian language. I apologize. So I will only mention the key points for the translators to be able to translate. And the presentation is devoted to the cooperation of the universities and scientific research institutions to create an integrated system of complex research in the Arctic zones in Russia and outwards in the northern parts of Asia. Next slide, please. Here on the slide, we can see a region on which this research project focuses. It's the region where all the great northern rivers meet, the Kolyma River, the Lena River, and some other rivers, and the relief which it encompasses, the relief of the Northern Sea. And the colleagues that are here today understand greatly the problems and the challenges that the North and the Arctic faces. And of course, the boundaries of the permafrost zone is shifting quite significantly, and the permafrost coverage area is decreasing and shrinking, as well as the Arctic Ocean area. And the global territory which we would like to encompass within this project is, of course, a territory which allows us to fulfill goals and to make conclusions on a global scale for improving the climate and the ecology of the planet. This is why we called this project the global climate changes of the Earth, climate ecology and the quality of life. And we have a diagram presenting the main interrelations between the climate, between the permafrost, and between the freshwater balance and the CO2 cycle. And we see that there are not any specific connections in both trends, in both directions. Mostly these are positive connections. And of course, we need to complexly solve this problem. And we need to single out the focus area, the target of our research that we are trying to reach in this interdisciplinary approach. And the main focus of this project is to evaluate the CO2 cycle in this part of Asia, Northern Asia, and of course in the Arctic zone. Meanwhile, the estimated value of this CO2 level will encompass the whole system and its components of the Arctic. What I mean is the relief, the forest areas, the swamp areas, the rivers, and everything that encompasses this area. These are goals that will help us achieve the results which we will be able to give to the climate control managers, scientists, to build new climatic models and to evaluate the complex of changes that will take place in the climate. In this program, of course, we are a member of the UArctic, and of course, this presupposes a collaboration with the UArctic universities. And of course, we are a part of the National Arctic Consortium. What I mean is the one that's called NANOC. And of course, we will cooperate with this university as well. The leading experts and scientists participate in this project. They are known worldwide in the Arctic studies field. And next slide, please. I mentioned the main goal that we would like to. We mentioned the key results, among which we can mention the increasing of the level of life in the region, and this is 70% of Russia that we're talking about. And of course, the global changes, they will affect the quality of life on a global scale. In this aspect, in this perspective, we don't need to enumerate all the goals. There are many of them aimed at sustainable development, and we can achieve them within these goals. And of course, very important results are a complex evaluation of the aftermath of these global changes, which we need to evaluate as a result of this large-scale work. According to different sources, the evaluation of the results of the climate change within a certain time period is valued at within a range of 8 to a higher amount of billions of dollars. So it's 8 times higher. And of course, this is non-specific data. And the understanding of what we need to be ready for, it's a very important goal, and it is worth setting it to collect a large scope of important and effective consortium with the corresponding competences. Next slide, please. We see on this slide the architecture structure of the consortium within the scope of which we are forming the goals, and we see the main components of the problem that we are working on. The center circle has the evaluation and forecasting of the CO2 cycle, and the petals have the following. One of them has permafrost, the other has relief, land area, tundra, swamps, and forests. The next one is represented by the shelf, a relief, and the sea. The technologies of monitoring, the quality of life, and the last one has the carbon polygons and farms. So these are the main blocks which we want to build and get a result for a further enhancement of the environmental situation, improvement of the environmental situation. We can see that the petals are almost going into the center of the circle, and these are the ones that we want to make one of the strategic projects of our university within the priorities of the 2030 goals. Everything that is outside of the circle, these are extra resources, additional resources, which will be adapted to different other trends. We will attract the resources of other programs, other partners, and in particular, if we talk about the carbon polygons and farms, these are territories set up for the monitoring of the carbon cycle, of the carbon emissions into the atmosphere. And this is CO2 and methane, CH4. And of course, we have launched a program, and there is a project within this field. We are building a carbon polygon in one of the swamps. I'm going to talk about that later. In the consortium, as part of the consortium, we also have a great number of universities, partner universities. These are the ones that we have already mentioned. This is the Northern Arctic University. This is NEFU. We have signed an agreement with Anatoly Nikolaev, director of NEFU, and this is already a consortium. There's an international consortium called Microplastic in the Environment. So these are all the Tomsk city universities. There are 6 universities there. We are all partners with them. These are practically all of the academic research universities in Tomsk. These are people from the Yakutsk Scientific Center. We have signed an agreement with them. This is the research center of the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Science. And Lars has participated in the roundtable discussion in July in Tomsk, and we have signed a contract, an agreement with the Institute of Permafrost. So we are gathering a consortium in which each of these blocks can be established and studied on a global scale. We discussed the possibility for an annual to hold annually annual meetings with the members of the consortium. This year it's going to be remotely, and we will see how we can interpret different results and how this coincides with the goals that we have set, the general goals that we have set, and further plan our work on for the next year, for the following year. The project covers a range of 50 years, so this is a long-term cooperation. And even in Russian language, you can see that under the enumeration of the partners, we have 3 dots. So like to be continued, which means that we can continue the list of partners, and everybody is welcome to participate and join us. For example, on my screen, I see I don't see the partner networks, but there is definitely UArctic, there's Interact, Signet, and others. All of the colleagues that are present here today, we have been working with you, we have been cooperating with you, and we will continue to do that within this project. Next slide, please. So I will show you a couple of slides very quickly, showing what we have done already, what we have achieved already. This is a team not only from the Tomsk University, but other Tomsk universities and institutions. We see a map of research. There's a team led by Igor Semiletov. They are holding another expedition in a few days. It's an Arctic Seas Expeditions. They have already done over 50 expeditions and gathered a lot of research material. Next slide shows an example of what we have developed, such as technologies and equipment. This is an example of a DHS technology. It's a special camera for underwater galographic research. Now, it allows us to research plankton and other sedating microorganisms, not exactly in the sea environment, but also others. But we have held expeditions in the sea. So we can study the environmental behavior of the species in situ. And we can transfer this information from this equipment to the ship, to the land area where the scientific center is located, and we can gather specific in-depth information regarding the data, the research. So this camera goes 500 meters deep. So this is just an example. Here we can see an example of technology and equipment for cleaning the water from oil spills. This is a unique example because there is no other technology in the world. It allows to collect the oil spills which have been sedating in the bottom of the water bodies. So this allows not only cleaning the water bodies in Russia, but also in Europe. So this technology is being widely used in Europe. This slide shows a research route, which was undertaken last year from the airplane laboratory and on the territory of Yakutia and the Arctic Sea. The gas component of the atmosphere was studied. So this is an example of what we can do. There is land and air research tools. We can see a very famous a mega transect equipment and approach. We know this from technology from the Tomsk University. Terry Colligan knows this technology very well, and he's one of the ideologists and founders of this work, and he continues to cooperate with the Tomsk University, for which I acknowledge him and his work. And we have to say that within this trend, we have won a project grant on the unique scientific equipment, and the Western Siberia is one of the leaders in this. We have we are going to create 250 fields. So this mega transect covers a lot of natural zones. These can be studied, and they can be studied gradually. I have already mentioned the carbon polygon in the Tomsk region, and we have gotten this project. We are beginning to launch it. The next slide shows maps where we have the stationary equipment in the following areas: in Kaibasova and Plotnikova and Vesuganye. These are regions in the Tomsk area. So these are stationary equipments and stations, research centers, where they study the atmosphere, the optics, and everything else connected with the goals that we're trying to reach, such as the CO2 emissions. Here I will probably conclude my talk, because here we have an attempt to explain our main goals, but our main goal probably is to, after we create a consortium, our main goal in November is to create not only a concept of this project, but also to create a roadmap of what we're going to do in the following 2, 5, and 10 years. Here I will end my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you, Viktor Valentinovich. I would like to change the plan of our session. One of our colleagues could not join us today, and I would like to use this moment to show what the Northeastern Federal University is working on as one of the organizers of the forum. Okay. So I would like to say that the Northeastern Federal University is one of the 10 federal universities created in the Russian Federation. And in the Far Eastern region, we have 2 federal universities. This is the Far Eastern Federal University and us in the Northeastern Federal University in Yakutsk. The university is not the smallest one. It's one of the largest. It's the largest university in the Northeastern region. We have over 3,000 employees, over 19,000 students. Among them are 500 international students. We have 3 branches in Narangri, Mirny, and Chukotka, autonomous region in Anadырı. The university has 12 institutes, 6 faculties, and 2 colleges. There are 5 research institutes. Of course, we have a faculty of pre-university education and vocational guidance, the Institute for the Development of Professional Competences. This slide shows where we are located, where the university is located. Here you can see it, and there are the 3 affiliated branches. And the territory of the university encompasses 2 micro-regions of the Russian Federation. This is the Far Eastern region and the Arctic zone of the Russian Federation. If we talk about the territory of Yakutia and Chukotka, these are 3.8 square kilometers. This means that there's more than 1/5. This covers, this is almost 50% of the Northern Arctic region. This is about 50% of the total Arctic territory of our country, Russia. That's why we would like to say that, of course, it's a great responsibility for our university. And of course, we are located on the very important geostrategical area of the country. And one of the presenters have mentioned that our universities, and not only our university, is working on the sustainable development of humanity. Starting from 2018, we have begun giving presentations on this topic, and we can see the 2002, 2019, and 2020 reports. In 2020, we have created a very good report on the results of 2019, and when we have created the ratings of the universities, we have made it into the 30 top universities of the universities in Russia. As of 2020, we have made it into the rating within 10 trends. And you can see the report on 2020. In spring, we have results of the work we have done in 2021 and 2020. So we are now in the top ratings in reaching the 16 out of 17 goals on sustainable development. And if we talk about the Russian Federation, in terms of some tours, we are higher in the ratings. In gender equality, for example, and quality education, we hold the 11th place in the Russian Federation. Of course, I think that this is a great result, and we are working in the right direction. And the priority for the program as of 2030, the government of the Russian Federation is suggesting to for our university to develop until the 2030, and we have the goals such as working on the sustainable development and improvement of the quality. We are going to try to work on the sustainable development of the North. And of course, the university is doing a lot for the development of not only the northeastern territories, but the territories of the Arctic. And we have more than 6,500 students who are trained in Arctic-oriented programs. And these programs are aimed at the following goals, so you can see them on the screen. And here are the main directions of scientific research in NEFU. They more or less are oriented in the working in the Arctic zone, developing the Arctic zone. You can see these goals. These are fundamental mathematics modeling, natural and man-made processes, ecosystems development, cultural sustainability and development. And apart from institutions, we have 62 scientific research laboratories. The university has several international Arctic research projects that it is engaged in, and here you can see just a few. Within the work of the University of the Arctic, we have begun working with the Harbin University of Technology, and we study the ecosystem pollution in the Asian part of Russia. And together with in cooperation with the Alfred Wegener Institute for Polar and Marine Research, we hold research on lakes. And we have been working for more than 10 years with them. Another field of research is the cryogenic processes. For example, in the region of Batagayka, in the Verkhoyansk region of Yakutia. And here we have many interesting data that we have retrieved. Data on the paleoclimate, on the fossil fuels of the mammoth fauna, and many others. And further, in the fourth part of our research, together in cooperation with our Korean colleagues from Korea and other European institutions, we study the mammoth fauna. And it is not a secret that we are seriously looking for DNA, mammoth DNA. Of course, this is a very serious undertaking. And every year we send expeditions to find a specimen of mammoth fauna which is safely preserved. And we have a mammoth museum. We have mammoth tusk, sorry, not tusk, trunk. And we have also discovered the mammoth blood concealed within the mammoth body that we have found. In negative temperatures, this blood did not freeze, and this shows that the mammoth blood has some cryoprotectors, which allows them to survive and to live in severe conditions of the north. Of course, our university, from its beginning, from the beginning of its existence and the beginning of the existence of the Northeastern Federal University, has been a partner of the UArctic, great partners from the University of the Arctic, and we are cooperating with the University of the Arctic on many projects. So there are over 200 universities involved in the University of the Arctic, and we are co-partners on many thematic networks held by the University of the Arctic. In 4 of them, we are leaders or the co-leaders of these programs. In 2020, I have already mentioned that we have begun working with the Polytechnical University of Harbin. We have begun working with them on researching the contamination, the pollution of the air, and we would like to express our utmost gratitude for the support of our co-joint programs. And we are looking forward to seeing Lars Klorent again in our region. And I would like to give the word for finalization of the session to our honorable professor. And as one of our organizers, I will finish the session. The word goes to you, please.
Thank you. This has been an educational session for me. It is very important to learn about the activities of each other and how we work with others, because there is maybe somebody who have good ideas and do things differently. And that is a constant activity for Arctic cooperation. And this is the way to build each other better and stronger to become relevant to the Arctic. And I really appreciate the very open mind and attitude of collaborative work, and also the creativity and good solutions implemented in so many different universities around the Arctic. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you today, and thank you all for taking part.
Спасибо большое. Ну, конечно, буквально
Thank you very much. So in less than 2 hours, we have been a lot of different places of our planet, and we saw a lot of different points of view of different universities of Arctic and the ways of collaborating in order to develop the Arctic. And the climate is in Arctic is very hard, so we need to work more in that direction. So we need to preserve our nature and respect it, and take only what we need from it, and also give back and respect nature. Thank you very much to everyone for participating. The presentations were very good and interesting, and we wait you next year. This is our permanent session within this forum, and for listening to each other with the universities from Arctic. Thank you very much.